Hello students, welcome to Massive Open Online course on State and Local Governance, Machinery and Processes. In continuation to our earlier talks on the need of Constitutional Amendment Act and thereafter the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, now in that series today we are going to discuss the Constitution 74th Amendment Act. The Constitution 74th Amendment Act 1992 provides a basis for the state legislature to guide the state governments in the assignment of various responsibilities to municipalities and to strengthen municipal governance. Accordingly, several state governments have amended their municipal acts, municipal laws, legislations as to bring these in conformity with the constitutional provisions. While state governments ratified the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, they have found it difficult to implement the provisions in totality. The functional devolution to urban local bodies has not been supported by adequate transfer of revenue sources. The financial autonomy of urban local bodies have been undermined as they have to seek state government approval for any revision in tax rates and user charges and have limited powers to institute new taxes. The existing legal framework as defined by the state municipal acts was not conducive for implementing the provisions of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in the true spirit. Before discussing the features and provisions of 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, let's discuss why this amendment was required in case of urban local bodies. The 74th Constitutional Amendment Act is required for following reasons. Number one, urban decentralization need to empower urban local bodies with many more powers and functions to operate as independent levels of government. Number two, the increased autonomy also need to be complemented by appropriate accountability concerns or measures. Number three, this accountability which is to be given to these institutions need to be directly to the citizens themselves rather than to another level of government. Hence, formal mechanism for such citizen-centric accountability need to be created along with reforms in urban decentralization. In simple words, let's say that the elected representatives in the municipal bodies or in elected municipal bodies need to be accountable directly to the citizen who are electing them. This is a deviation from a system of parliamentary kind of accountability which we have at the parliament level or the state legislative level. Number four, from the citizen perspective, there need to be more opportunity to participate in local governance at many levels, especially in budgeting or in formulating the budget, in planning, land use and zoning issues, and so on. Creating this kind of opportunities to participate also complements the accountability issues mentioned earlier in this talk. A consistent mechanism for participation, planning and decentralization across urban local governments is expected to enable and to ensure easier coordination at the regional planning level through the district planning committees and metropolitan planning committees that have been envisaged in the Constitution. Number six, strong accountability mechanisms are also required on financial and operational management of the urban local bodies, budgeting, auditing, presentation of the financial statements to the public or to the citizens, performance measurement indicators, and so on. Here again, the primary focus of these instruments needs to be citizens and users of public services, as they have been paying taxes or the source of income for the municipal bodies. Thus, the constitutional amendment is not required only to correct the incorrect things in the municipal governance. Rather, we need the constitutional amendment to promote, to strengthen, and to make these institutions more accountable one and more citizen-centric one. These are some of the reasons which paved the way for bringing the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act for the urban local bodies in the country. After discussing this aspect, let's take up another important aspect, that is the main provisions of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Article 243Q inserted by 74th Constitutional Amendment Act provides for the constitution of different type of the municipalities in every state. The types of municipalities are: number 1, Nagar Panchayats for transitional area, that is to say an area in transition from rural to urban in character. Number 2, Municipal Council for a smaller urban area. And number 3, Municipal Corporation for a larger urban area. The classification of the municipal institutions into different categories is based on: number 1, the population of the area; number 2, density of the population there in that particular area; number 3, the revenue generated for local administration; number 4, the percentage of employment in non-agricultural activities; number 5, the economic importance or such other factors as the governor may deem fit. Article 243R, Clause 2, provides an option to the state legislature or the state government to provide representation in the municipality of persons having special knowledge or experience in municipal administration with no voting rights. MPs, MLAs, MLCs. In other words, Member Parliament, Member Legislative Assembly, and Member Legislative Councils with voting rights. Number 3, Constitution of Ward Committees. Article 243S of the Constitution provides for Constitution of Ward Committees consisting of one or more wards within the territorial area of a municipality having a population of 3 lakhs or more. Article 243U of 74th Constitutional Amendment Act provides a fixed term of 5 years for a municipality from the date it is appointed. The election to constitute a municipality are required to be completed before the expiration of the duration of the municipality. It is provided there in the Constitution. Article 243W inserted by the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act provides powers, authority and responsibilities of municipalities subject that the legislature of the state by law endow the municipality with such powers and authority. Those are necessary to enable them to function as institution of self-government. The law enacted by the state legislature may contain provision for the devolution of powers and responsibilities upon municipalities with or without conditions, with respect to the preparation of plan for economic development and social justice. The performance of functions and implementation of scheme as may be entrusted to these institutions, including those in relation to the matters listed in the 12th schedule of the Constitution. Those are given to these urban local bodies, and no doubt the urban local bodies perform those functions as decided by the state legislature or the state government in this regard. The committees with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to carry out the responsibilities conferred upon municipalities. As per the Article 243X of inserted by 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it has been left to the legislature of the state to specify the imposition of taxes which can be levied by the municipal institution in that particular state. Revenue sources, responsibility of taxes, duty, fees, etc. levied and collected by municipality, taxes, duties, fees, etc. levied and collected by state government, grant in aid given up municipality from the state government funds. Besides this, the Constitution also provides for the revenue sources, responsibility to impose taxes, duties, fees, etc. levied and collected by municipalities. In actual, as per the provisions made there in the Constitution, that state government has to constitute a state finance commission which will recommend to the state government to arrive at a policy decision to help advise the state government so that it can arrive at certain policy decision that what kind of the revenue sources to be devolved to the urban local bodies, what kind of the taxes can be imposed, what kind of the taxes and levies, what kind of the taxes, fees, etc. can be levied by the municipal governments, and which kind of the taxes and fees or the user charges will be collected by these bodies. Not only this, the State Finance Commission is also expected to advise the state government regarding principles to be followed for the devolution of funds under the grants and aid to these local bodies. So, the role of the State Finance Commission is very important, and on the basis of the recommendations of the State Finance Commission, the state government is to take the decision what kind of the financial sharing will be there between the state government and the municipal institutions of that particular state. It is important to share with you that before 14th State Finance Commission report, the state government itself are normally found to be in the crisis. They don't have the surplus funds to share with these local self-governing institutions. Not only that one, politically they are also reluctant to devolve financial powers to these institutions. But this is beyond the scope of the present talk, as we will discuss in detail about the State Finance Commission and their recommendations relating to this aspect in another talk which is exclusively for this purpose. Article 243ZD of the Constitution provide for the district planning committees in each district. That's common both for the Panchayati Raj institutions and the urban local bodies of all kinds. And the purpose to have this district level committee is to plan for the district as a whole. And in this regard, detailed provision has been made, and there in the Constitution, not only for the composition of the district planning committee, but also for the role to be performed by this committee. And there are lot of variations both in composition, powers and working of these committees from one state to another state. But one thing is quite clear, that the amendment has paved the way that there must be certain decentralized kind of planning, particularly which can plan in a more realistic manner, keeping in view the need of that particular area and the availability of financial and other resources in that particular area. So again, like the State Finance Commission, there is a separate talk on the District Planning Committee also. We will discuss all those aspects in detail there, but for here it is enough that the District Planning Committee, which is common for rural and urban local body, is also provided by 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Another important institution relating to the planning, and particularly for the metropolitan area, is the Committee for Metropolitan Planning. And the provision to establish this committee is provided under Article 243ZE. And that committee is responsible for undertaking the planning work for the areas or the urban areas under the Metropolitan Committee. Again, there is a separate talk on the Metropolitan Committee also, along with the District Planning Committee. We will discuss about that there. The 74th Constitutional Amendment Act has also created new roles for the Department of Town and Country Planning, maybe known by the different names in the different states, but it is responsible for the town planning, particularly in that state. In actual, there have been certain parastatal institutions before the constitutional amendments in 1992. Those institutions were established during the 70s and 80s for attending the work, for attending certain works for the municipal institutions, and those organizations are organized at state level also. Those are not for one municipal institutions independently. In such a circumstance, we can say that the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act not only provided an opportunity for more people participation, it has also made an institutions for generating awareness among the people, for delivering service by the local institution to the citizens, and to make these institutions citizen-centric with due emphasis on the good governance and making these institutions accountable to the citizens directly. Therefore, a new kind of the system has emerged. A new kind of system of the urban local bodies has emerged in the country. We in this course will learn about all these institutions like Municipal Corporation, Municipal Council, State Finance Commission, State Election Commission, Metropolitan Committees, Metropolitan Planning Committees and District Planning Committees in separate talks. Therefore, for this purpose or for this deliberation, let's confine to this much of academic interactions only. Hope you have been able to understand the main provisions and the features of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. For in-depth understanding, please go to the e-text as well as the additional readings provided to you on the SWAYAM portal. In addition to that, I would also like to suggest to you that the report on the local governments of the Second Administrative Reforms Commission, although it is quite old now, but that will provide you a very effective understanding about the Panchayati Raj institutions as well as urban local bodies which are established after 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in an effective way, and that will make you to understand how the democratic decentralization process has evolved and taken place in the country. So, with all these observations, I again thank you and wish you a very, very happy learning.